Yetta, I really don't want to be sold.
Well, neither do I. I mean, really, who does?
Moving forward with the Dekker team. Moving forward together with the Dekker team.
Welcome to another episode of Life's Inside Track. I'm Yetta Dekker.
And I'm Ken Dekker.
And it's where we share tactics, tips, tools, truths that we all need, we all deserve. You, I, everyone, so we can turn our house into home, our families thrive, we live the best life possible, and we get to build wealth through real estate. We are going to consider today how to identify the difference with certainty of when you're being sold versus served. When you're being sold and cajoled, or served and consulted.
Okay. That's a great distinction. Sold or served.
Served or sold.
Because we've been
Sold
saying
or
it
served.
for decades, actually.
Over 3 decades.
Yeah, that we serve our clients to a great decision.
Right. And yet how we've all been sold or felt like we were being sold. And I don't think any of us really, we're going to talk a little later in another segment.
The odd time you want to be
choose
sold.
Why we want to be sold. But for the most part, we don't want to be sold. And we especially do not want to be sold by a realtor. We want our realtor to know us, like us, care about us, put our best interest at heart. I mean, that's what we wanted when we were not yet realtors and what our clients tell us they want. And so that means we need to be understood. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, and I believe that the desire to be not sold is so much stronger. That's why, the online businesses have become a billion-dollar industry or multi-billion-dollar industry because people want to be able to go online, they want to look hassle-free, and then they want to make a decision and buy something based on other people's recommendations.
Right.
And real estate has some similarities. One is that the realtor.ca website is the most visited website in Canada for real estate. And the reason being that people cite is there's no advertisement, there's no pushiness, there's no registration required, there's no salesperson calling you unless you reach out to them. So people can shop, the initial part of shopping, right? Because that's the initial start is you want to look at properties. And then as people get more serious, they want the properties that they want to come to them. And that's when they want to talk to a realtor to set up that search, the initial search, right? But they still don't want to be sold. As a matter of fact, Yetta, I tell people and I tell you and I tell others that I haven't sold a house in my entire career in real estate.
And yet we've helped or served over 3,117 families. So, talk to me about that.
Well, because I've marketed homes and I've helped people negotiate on homes they want, and I've helped negotiate for the sale of homes when people want to buy them. But nobody likes to be sold. They like to buy. They like to buy what they want, but they don't want to be sold.
All right. So we're going to talk about how you can differentiate between being sold and served. So let's get down to it.
Okay. Well, if you're telling, you're selling.
Telling too much.
Yeah. So if you're with a salesperson, unfortunately they call us salespeople or salespersons. If they're talking about them, if they're talking about their service, if they're just talking about the house, if they're only saying the good things about the house and they're not saying any of the negative things that they see about the house, you're being sold.
Or at least they're attempting to sell you. They're selling and telling rather than serving and consulting. Okay. Then the next one is if they're not asking questions.
Yeah.
Like they got to be asking questions.
That's the consulting part. If you're going to be a consultant, a consultative process, that means I need to ask you questions. I need to ask what you're thinking, what your feelings are about certain things, what your motivation is. Sometimes it gets uncomfortable.
Well, okay, we're going to get into that later.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the other thing is that all they're telling you or saying are the things that you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of know deep down that they're maybe not all the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're probably being sold.
Right. So they're not telling you the truth.
Right.
Sometimes telling people the truth it's a hard pill to swallow for both of us.
Right.
And
exactly.
I think that's why sometimes realtors will avoid telling the truth about the pricing that you want to price at the house or the offer you want to give the seller. Well, the truth is sometimes it's so low it's insulting and you're going to hurt yourself instead of being reasonable and getting it at a better price. You're going to end up paying more or not getting it at all. And so that truth is an important piece to tell.
Right. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to tell that you're being sold is if they're ignoring your questions
And your concerns.
and just kind of like flying right over them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Just keep asking you to sign.
Yeah. That's being sold.
Yes.
So if you're thinking, hey, I don't ever want to be sold again when it comes to real estate, connect with us. We would love to have just a quick 15-minute clarity conversation about your specific situation in which you can decide if it feels good to go to the next step. Picking up the phone is just a step in the journey of discovering whether you're feeling sold or served.
Yeah.
How else can you tell?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. If you feel pressure, if you've got pressure as opposed to options keep you in control and actually give you wisdom, right? If the realtor's giving you your options, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. Quite often there's 3 options and you get to choose, then you know you're not being sold.
Right.
You're being educated, consulted with, and you get to choose yes, no, or maybe at this different situation, this different price, right?
Right. And also you'll know you're being served if they're sharing with you where there's actual urgency. If there's a house that you want and you know that it's going to be well received in the marketplace, if you don't provide the adequate amount of urgency for that situation, if it aligns with their motivation, you know you're not being served if you're just being pushed to make the decision, do you want this one? Do you want this one? Do you want this one? Do you want this one now? That's pushy. But urgency, as long as it's appropriate urgency for the situation, is actually being served.
Yeah.
So you got to really have your spidey sense on.
There's one on the other side too. Do you know what? We didn't really want to discuss this before, but there's the non-consultative, non-pushy, afraid to make a decision, afraid to guide you, and so they're not gonna ask you to buy something at all. They might even discourage you. You might fall in love with the one. This is the one, and they go, well, let's just not be rash. Let's sleep on this. Let's think about it. Let's go tomorrow, but maybe it's gone tomorrow, right? So it's understanding the importance of knowing when to move quickly.
Right. One last one. They're convincing you rather than being curious.
That's a good one. Yeah. So if you know how you're being sold, if you're being pushed, if you're being sold,
Cajoled
versus consulted and served. We're honored to be positioning you to build wealth wisely because it's about so much more than just money.
Moving forward with the Dekker team. Moving forward together with the Dekker team.